Two Noble Kinsmen is definitely not one of the better known Shakespeare titles, but you know, it's interesting because even though it's not one of the more popular titles, it's lasted for almost 400 years. If they've lasted that long, you know, they've lasted for a reason, you know, especially something like this. They came from Shakespeare and Fletcher.
One of the reasons why this play has been overlooked and dismissed in some cases is because it's a collaboration. It was written by William Shakespeare and also by John Fletcher.
Oh, Lord. Difference between men.
Shakespeare was at the end of his career. Two Noble Kinsmen was actually the final play he had his hands on.
We are young and yet desire the ways of honor.
Fletcher was actually a rising star at this point. He had already had several hits. He was a popular playwright, as well known as Shakespeare in the day. And he was actually the man that took over as lead playwright for the King's Men. So he was the man that replaced Shakespeare.
Cousin Arcite, is there any record of two that loved as well as we, Arcite?
Sure cannot.
The Two Noble Kinsmen is based on The Knight's Tale, which is actually the first story told in Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. In effect, with Two Noble Kinsmen, what we have is the greatest playwright in English history, accompanied by one of the other greatest playwrights of the day, retelling a story by one of the greatest writers in English literature. So it's almost hard to believe that it could be an inferior work.
By this good light, had I a sword, I would kill thee. Thou bringest such pelting, scurvy news continually. Thou art not worthy life, I will not go.
Indeed you must, my lord.
What I love about Two Noble Kinsmen is the collaboration between Shakespeare and Fletcher really provides this incredibly unique voice that we hadn't seen before with Shakespeare. And that kind of voice just creates this play that where all the characters, there's nothing small or subtle about them. Everything's big, everything's wild. The plot is just this crazy wild ride from beginning to end.
It blends comedy and tragedy and romance to really create a new modern type of play. Two Noble Kinsmen doesn't rely on some of the standard plot devices that Shakespeare's used in his earlier plays. There's no women dressed as men. There's no drugs that mimic death. There's no twins that get confused or separated at birth. There's no villain in this play. Really, it's the two kinsmen sort of battling each other and being torn apart by what's inside them.
All Shakespeare's plays are about human nature. You see yourselves in them even if you don't want to.
What think you of her, sir?
I think she has a perturbed mind, which I cannot minister to.
To me, this one is really about the craziness of us. We have all done ridiculous things for a code that we believe in, even when it doesn't make sense. We have all done crazy things for what we think is love. And in this situation, you've got Palamon with his world of honor and knightly love and courtly existence. And then you've got Arcite, who's living in this world of black and white and fighting and passion. And then you've got this world of Amelia where she is basically kind of retreated from emotion and is trying to find a way to deal with things that are put in front of her, and she doesn't want to face those things. So yeah, I really do think it's about the flights of fantasy that we create and how we use that to deal with the real world, which is sometimes hard to deal with. I mean, I'm a big fan of Shakespeare's plays that kind of fall outside the categorization of tragedy and comedy. I like his problem plays because they're not so neatly tied up, and I think that is also like life. I think life is not neatly tied up, and so I find I relate more to his plays that are less following a formula of comedy or tragedy.